What do you say, guys? Here we are waiting on the selection committee to see if this is going to be a sham or not. If you're putting in the four best teams, then we know Alabama belongs in. If this is a popularity contest based on, conferences and power, might not be a good day for Alabama. We're going to talk about that. We'll react to it together. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Bama Tailgate Daily. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and let's get this thing going. All right, guys, roll tide. Mick Gillispie, and we're kind of just waiting now. In the next, 5 minutes, the show's going to start from ESPN, and they're going to let us know how things are going to play out. And honestly, I don't have a very good feeling about this. You remember last year, TCU was the team that Florida State is this year that didn't belong in. And, people kind of said, well, you know what? They're the most deserving. And then they lost by 60 in the championship game. We watched Florida State without a quarterback in a weak conference playing their championship game. It was really a sorry state of affairs last night to have to sit there and watch that bad football after you spent time watching the SEC. The SEC obviously is the best conference in college football. It blows the other conferences out of the water. And I say that because they win championships. The SEC wins championships. It's a rare occasion when a team from the SEC doesn't win the college football playoff, the BCS, and so on and so forth. And that's why the SEC, when you put those teams in with everyone else, dominates. So here's what the AP did. The AP has been the poll all year that has been probably the hardest on Alabama. Alabama, no matter what they did, the pollsters did not want them to move up. And you see here, very creative. Texas beat Oklahoma State, a team that, wasn't good. They destroyed them, and they went up 4 spots. Creative, right? Alabama finally went up, but of course they're going to be 1 spot out of the playoff, even though they beat Georgia, the team that had won back-to-back national championships in 29 straight games, right? And somehow, some way, Georgia falls 5 spots. Last week, Ohio State lost, and they didn't fall 5 spots. This entire setup here is a sham to try to keep the SEC out. I'm just telling you. And so we'll see if that translates into the coaches poll. I'm curious to see what they think. And then obviously the college football playoff, which is going to announce here sometime soon. But my gut feeling is, honestly, I just don't think that the SEC has enough power within the college football playoff committee to get them to do the right thing. And if the SEC doesn't get in, this falls flat on the feet, right at the feet of Commissioner Sankey. It's his responsibility to stand up for these teams. And when you look at this mix here, where the teams are right now, record-wise, the wins that these teams have had, Alabama, strength of schedule, wins against top 25 teams, best win of the season. Somehow we're bought into the Big Ten being a conference that should have all these teams in the top 5, and every year they fade out. But what they're going to try to set up is they want Michigan to play Florida State, which is, you might as well, it's like playing Iowa in a championship game. Florida State has absolutely zero chance to win that game. And then the Texas will beat Washington, and then you'll have Texas against Michigan in the championship game. But this is also the only way that any of these teams are going to win, because if you put Georgia or Alabama in this, that's who's going to win. It's going and it's easy to predict that. And go look at Vegas and what the lines would be. Alabama would be favored against every single team that is ranked ahead of them right now. But we'll see what happens. I mean, is it the most deserving teams? or is it the 4 best teams? And it's supposed to be the 4 best teams, but it's turned into, well, they did win, and Florida State doesn't have a quarterback. And what about Liberty? I mean, if it's all about the fact that you didn't lose a game, these teams didn't play the same schedule. Why not put Liberty in there? They went undefeated. They went undefeated just like Florida State and Michigan and Washington. If you play in a conference where there's not a lot of good teams, of course you could go undefeated. I don't know. Let's just kind of look at what you guys think. First off, James, roll tide to you, brother. Dinovine, roll tide. Fingers crossed. Maybe I'm wrong. Thunderstruck. Maybe I'm wrong. But roll tide to you too, man. And I'm not going to let this knock me off of my perch of being excited about winning the SEC, because that's a big deal. You won it out on the field, and you prove that you're the best team in the country. But also, when you win as much as Alabama wins, you get into a place where people on these committees are jealous, and they don't want you to win. The only way that Alabama is going to lose is, or Alabama and the SEC aren't going to win the national championship, is if they aren't given the opportunity to be in here. And I don't know how anyone could have watched the Florida State game yesterday, the last one that they played, and think that they're on the same level as Alabama or Georgia. So very, very interesting. Iceman, good morning to you. Roll Tide, brother. Thanks for being here. Mickey, if we get in, Alabama's winning this. I mean, these teams that are on this list right here, the Texas is the team that they played second game of the season. They couldn't even get the plays off yet. They've lost both coordinators, the quarterback and the star defensive player on the team before, and still, I mean, honestly, only lost by 10. It was Texas's best game and Alabama's worst. And I think they know that. Like, they don't want to play Alabama again. We know what they're going to do. They're going to try a double reverse pass. Be ready for it. And look, Thomas, Georgia fan, like how in the hell has Georgia dropped 5 spots? I mean, it's just ludicrous. Last week, Ohio State dropped 3 spots or 4 spots. Georgia hasn't lost in 29 games, and they fall 5 spots. This is the creativity of people to try to keep the best teams out of the playoff. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it really is, one of those things where you look at this and you go, okay, this is what I was kind of afraid of. And honestly, guys, what did we see the committee? The committee has been telling us for weeks that they want the SEC out. They weren't rewarding Alabama for the wins that they had on the field. And here we are waiting for for Alabama to be 5th. Now, if I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong. I just don't see a scenario where Alabama gets in, but that's why we're here right now. And we'll see if the SEC has any kind of pop. I mean, the fact that it's clearly the 4 best teams, one of them's Alabama. I don't know what else you want you want to put on your resume other than, you won, you beat Georgia, you beat Auburn, you beat LSU, you beat Ole Miss. I mean, you're talking about just some amazing wins. And I'm curious to see how this plays out. Michigan's going to be number 1. How about Iowa? What a fraud to be in a championship game yesterday. The over-under that they would score a point was a half a point per half, and they didn't hit it because they got shut out as predicted by right here, me. Shameful that that's what a championship game looks like. And I mean, and honestly, we talk about the Florida State championship game against Louisville that got beat by Kentucky, who was like the 8th or 9th team in the SEC. I mean, that just shows you how the struggles that Florida State had against the team that was beaten by the 8th or 9th best team in the SEC. And you're right. Like, why play hard out of conference schedules if you're going to be punished for it? I mean, really, like, why would you do that? You don't have to. I'm trying to get the TV going up here where I can see what happens when it happens. But I don't think that you play these games. Obviously, Alabama's punished for the Texas game, and it's all the naysayers anyway. I mean, it's constantly the people that know that the team that they're politicking for isn't good enough, it isn't better than Alabama. They just don't want to see Alabama win again. It's almost a shot at the SEC, and it's more than just Alabama. It's a shot at Georgia. It's a shot at LSU. It's a shot at being dominant and putting the best product out on the field for years and years. I mean, if you're a fan of one of those teams, Michigan, Washington, Texas, you want Florida State in because you don't want to end up like Georgia last night. You don't want to end up like that. And that's probably what would happen. So, all right, let me bring him on. Roll Tide, brother. How you doing?
Hey, buddy, it's Brad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Give me your take. I've got to switch a couple things on the set while you're talking, but I just, and I've said it before, man, I just don't feel like this. I feel like this is a sham job. I felt like this for weeks when they wouldn't move Alabama up. And I think today they're going to ignore the facts that Bama is clearly one of the 4 best teams. I think they're the best team, let alone the 4 best team. And they're going to keep them out.
So you have that feeling this morning that they are going to keep them out?
That's my feeling. I mean, did you see, look at the poll right here, the AP top 25 poll. Somehow they've got Georgia falling 5 spots and Alabama going up 3, but Texas beat Oklahoma State and goes up 4. And they're not even comparable as far as the wins are. I mean, it's crazy. It's almost like because Alabama won, Texas is the team that's going to get the benefit of it, which I don't get that.
No, I don't either. And I haven't seen the poll this morning. I didn't see it. No, I don't know. Obviously mixed emotions this morning. I have a feeling that that we're going to get in, but I will not be shocked if we are left out.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to surprise. I think it's going to be Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Bama.
Really? So you think Bama's going to – you think that they got in the room and they were like, hey – I mean, look, Bama's clearly better than Florida State. I mean, can anyone argue Florida State's only accomplishment that's better than Alabama is that they didn't lose a football game? Alabama lost 1. But Alabama played a tougher schedule. They're better now than they were at the beginning of the year. They have the most dynamic player in college football at quarterback in Jalen Milro. And can you believe we're saying that? But it's true.
Yeah. At the beginning of the year, we were not sold on anything.
Right.
Wasn't even sold on this team. But no, if it doesn't end up that way, they're going to leave Bama out. And I tell you the reason why. My thinking is they don't want to have this argument of Texas beat Alabama, so that'll leave them out. I think it's going to come down to Florida State's down to their third string quarterback. And one of the provisions in the committee rules, something that they look for is how will injuries or coaches out or players out going to affect their postseason play.
Right. And
So I think
it's clearly that for Florida State. How bad was that game to watch last night?
Oh, well, it was terrible to watch. I mean, I watch football from morning until late at night every Saturday, but that was just, garbage. But I think it's going to end up either that way, like I was talking about. I think they're going to put Texas and Alabama both in.
You think so, huh? Well, look, I mean, I guess in a way it is good to see that in the AP, which has been the most, I think it's been the most biased poll against Alabama all year, because I feel like a lot of the Alabama fatigue, the Alabama hate originates from the writers, like
right.
The writers they're tired of seeing Alabama win. They don't appreciate the fact that they're seeing and participating in the greatest dynasty in the history of college football. And I say that, and I mean that. And we may never see anything like this again. I mean, who knows? Maybe Kirby's going to do this in Georgia. I mean, he's won the last two, but the consistency, the length of this dynasty, and then, even furthermore, the success that Nick Saban has had as a coach, going back to his days at LSU and winning, is unprecedented. He's the first coach to win championships with multiple teams. It didn't matter where he's at. He's always winning. Even this year, where everyone wrote off Alabama, and it was a very, very difficult start to the season. That's why you played 12 games. Alabama played 13 games. And they beat the best of the best of the best. And they did it week in and week out. They went into Auburn and they won a football game against a well-coached team with a great game plan when everything went against them. They went to Atlanta and they beat the two-time defending champs. They beat LSU and most likely a quarterback that's going to win the Heisman Trophy, or at least they came to Tuscaloosa and won that game. They beat a team in Ole Miss. It's ranked number 11 right now, in a game where they really weren't playing anywhere close to their best, but they figured out a way to get it done. And besides that, Brett, the other thing I look at on here is if you're airing these games, you take Alabama and even Georgia for that matter, you eliminate the SEC from the college football playoff. I don't think it's worth watching, because it's not the best teams anymore. It's a political contest where schools that know their teams that aren't as good are in, so that they don't have to play the best. And guess who won the championship the year before Georgia did? That's right, Alabama. And guess who's won the most of these things over the last 15 years? Yeah, Alabama and the SEC. So you take the SEC out, I don't think it's worth watching.
No, it's not. And, Florida State, I feel like they are the TCU of this year's playoff. They will get dismantled. I do not think, Georgia's more deserving to be in the playoff than Florida State, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But, and I saw where Georgia's still trying to make a case, But it's sort of like Coach Saban said last night in his press conference. It's how you are playing right now. And, who cares what happened 10 weeks ago?
Right.
I mean, it's a different ball team. This ball team is totally different,
right? And this
than
is
what we saw against.
right. And Florida State's not the same team they were in the beginning of the season. They're not that good
Right,
anymore.
exactly.
You know, like they've faded
No,
out,
no.
and Alabama's gotten better.
Right.
Hey, how about this? Just
So
for college football, just to give you an idea about this top 25 and the top 4. The number 1 team on this list cheated and got busted for cheating.
yeah,
And there's no accountability at all. The coach sat out for 3 games, you know? That was on top of the 3 games that he sat out at the beginning of the year for cheating, for something different. You know, like that. Where's
we
that
don't talk about that. They're still talking about the catch that changed the landscape, as they said last night. Where who was it? It was a Bond, on the sideline, where they say he bobbled the pass, and it was ruled a completion, and they didn't review it, and they said that changed the entire outlook of the game. I don't think so, but you're going to get calls. You're going to get bad calls. You're going to get good calls, whatever. But they're still talking about that. But yeah, but we're not talking about a guy that's probably going to bulk for the Chicago Bears at the end of the season.
Yeah, or this is the sentiment. I'm going to put this up here. Tony Goldsmith on the chat. Stop. You all cheat. No, Tony. Michigan got caught cheating. They had to fire coaches because they were sending coaches to other places and stealing signs, which clearly against the rules. Like the whole everybody cheats, so it's okay, or you cheat too, or all that. That's bullshit. The bottom line is that you got caught cheating. Your own conference turned you in. It's not like we turned you in. You got caught, and your coach got sat out because of it twice this year. He's missed half the season because of cheating. I get it. Like, you don't have any integrity, Tony. You don't. Your integrity is, well, I'm just going to put it on somebody else. Complete horseshit. Cheating is cheating, whether you think so or not. It is. And the answer isn't, well, you cheat too. No, that's not it. The answer is that you got busted, your guy got caught, and your conference was too weak to really put their foot down on it. And it makes it unfair for everybody else that does things the right way. And by the way, Alabama is not out cheating. You guys say we changed the rules of college football so that teams like Michigan could even get in this conversation. That's the bottom line. And with the transfer portal and the NIL, and you got to buy this and do this, Alabama's still going to figure out a way to get it done. But give me that you all cheat crap. Get out of here, man. That's why your coach had to sit there and watch the game on television, the Ohio State game, and they won without him. That shows you how important Jim Harbaugh is.
Yeah, that's a total joke. No, and I think here we are. I think after this commercial break here, I think we're about to get we're finally going to get some results, I think.
Yeah. So you think Bama's going to get in over Florida State? If Florida State doesn't get in, they're going to be pretty upset. But I mean, you couldn't watch that game last night and think that team deserved to be on the same stage as what we saw Washington do, what we saw Texas do, taking care of business. They played great football. What we saw, honestly, and even Michigan, even though they played a weak Iowa team, they did what they had to do, and what we saw Alabama do. And honestly, Georgia, in losing to me, played 50 times better than Florida State did in winning.
Yeah. Yeah, and ask Michigan, ask Washington, ask even Texas or Florida State, would you like to play Alabama in the opening round of the playoff?
Well, they don't want that. Look, if it falls like you think it's going to fall and Bama's in at number 4, get ready for the 19s on the side of the helmet. This will be like 2020. Once you got past Florida, it'll be Ohio State. Who did they play in the first round? Cincinnati. This will be like that year. They'll Michigan.
Yeah.
They'll physically bully Michigan at the line of scrimmage. Michigan can even have our playbook, Tony. We'll give it to you so that they don't have to cheat, and you still won't stop them. So you don't want that, Tony. You don't want to see Alabama beat your guys up like what happened to Georgia last night. What happened the last time Michigan and Georgia played? What happened the last time Alabama and Michigan played? Come on. Then it comes down to Texas and Washington. Can you imagine that game? All the scoring that they would have. And then Bama will beat them too, and hopefully it's Texas, just so that we finish the year beating the only team that beat us.
Sure,
I love it, man.
Yeah, am I ahead of you, or they just put Michigan at number 1?
Okay, yeah, you call them out as they go. You're a little ahead of me right now, so I'm going to put them up as you say them. So Michigan is number 1.
Yeah, Michigan is number 1, and they've shot over to the watch party there. All right, so Michigan's number 1. Of course, they're going to do the top 2 here, which is going to be pretty obvious. Yeah, Washington is second.
So they did put Washington in second.
Yeah, so
if Florida State is third, then that's not a good sign.
Then that's not a good sign, no.
So we got Michigan and Washington, which are the 2 easy ones.
Yeah, there was no drama there. They're playing this out as much as they can.
Yeah, oh yeah. Are you nervous at all? Well, I mean, what's your thought process right now?
Oh man, I'm nervous. Yeah. All right, the third team, Texas.
Okay. So it's going to come down to what?
They jumped up 4 spots, so Texas is third. They will play Washington. So this may pan out like I thought it would. This is between Florida State and Alabama.
So it comes down to this.
It comes down to this.
It comes down to Florida State or Alabama. Florida State's argument, obviously, is that they haven't lost. Alabama is that they beat the number 1 team in the country. They're the best team right now in college football, playing the best football with 1 loss. And obviously, Texas's win over Alabama trumped their loss to Oklahoma. So
right.
So it's Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Florida State or Alabama.
Yeah, of course, Georgia's a wild card in this, but
I don't
think they're going to get the 4th spot.
Nah, there's no chance it's Georgia.
No.
So Florida State being the number 4 team in the AP poll, do you think that helps them at all?
No, their strength of schedule, Bama's 5th, Florida State's 55th. Wins and losses versus top 25 teams, Alabama 4-1, Florida State 3-0. Here we go. I figure they'll go with a 6th spot. Yeah. The number 6 spot goes to Georgia.
Okay.
So we're down to 4 and 5.
They are playing it out.
All the drama.
Oh, so he's still sitting here
all
waiting.
The drama.
So we know that Georgia's number 6, which I didn't think that was going to matter. How about Georgia going from number 1 to number 6? They lost a 3-point game to Alabama. And I think having Alabama at 8, which was kind of the thing that was really irritating me over the last 3 weeks.
Alabama's in.
They are in?
Alabama's 4th.
You got to be kidding me.
Alabama's 4th.
Are you serious?
I am serious. They'll play Michigan.
Tide, baby, let's go.
Roll fucking Tide. Let's go.
So the committee
Florida
did the right
State.
thing. Yes.
They finally did the right thing. Florida State is left out. They are 5th.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
We are in the game.
Hey, digital high fives to all you guys out there. Roll Tide. That's what I'm talking about. This team deserved it. They came in playing the best football. They did it out on the field. They beat Georgia, and honestly, Georgia's one of the 4 best teams too. But only one team could go the way that it all played out. Nick Saban and the boys are heading back into the college football playoff, and I think this is going to be another one of those championship years. Love it. I can't wait for the Michigan showdown. We're going to have all of it right here on this channel. Roll Tide, baby. Let's go.
Roll Tide, the Rose Bowl. Here we come.
Let's go. Man, I can't believe it, Brett. I cannot believe it. I just can't believe it. I just felt like it. And I got to tell you, man, this came down to a battle of power brokers. It just did. It came down to being able to go in and say, hey, you want somebody to watch your damn game or not? You take the best team out of this, and it's the 4 best teams. It's not the 4 most deserving teams. Alabama was on the outside looking in a year ago at the most deserving. And the most deserving TCU sucked when it got into the big game. It was terrible. It was an embarrassment to the game. So Roll Tide, all you guys, I'm still just sitting here in shock because I absolutely can't believe it. Can't believe it.
Wow.
I just can't believe it.
Wow.
We can.
I think
watching. Well, look at Florida State. Look, Florida State. You guys looked horrible. You didn't have it. You would have gotten beaten by Alabama by 21. Georgia would have beat you by 60 just because they were mad that they lost.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's supposed to be the 4 best teams, and that's what we got. Look, I would love this. I think that Florida State and Liberty ought to play, and they can call that a championship. We used to have multiple champions. Let them go play the undefeated teams, but let's put the 4 best teams in this tournament, which we just did, and let's see how this thing turns out.
Yeah. Do we have to have an NIT of college football now?
I would say that, but Garth says he's going to meet us at Rocco's Tavern in Pasadena. I'm down for that, Rocco. I'm pretty. I love the Rose Bowl, and I think like a Michigan Alabama.
I do too. I've already checked. I've already checked flights last night. I was like, that's one of the best stadiums I've ever been to. What a beautiful, beautiful place to play a game. But Rose Bowl, here we come. That'll be January 1st, 4 o'clock Central. So it'll be the first game of the 2 games. Of course, Washington and Texas will be in the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans at 7:45 Central Time.
Can I make a proclamation really quick, Brett?
Let's have it.
Roll Tide. Sorry, I just had to get that out.
Yeah, that's just Roll Tide. I'm still kind of.
That was for Mr. Wonderful.
I'm still trying to believe that this is for real. This is going to come down. Now I'm thinking ahead of schedule here, but I think this is going to come down to a rematch, Alabama and Texas.
Oh, and I hope so. That's what we want. And if you lose to Sark, you lose to a good program. And if you win, you avenge your loss. But you know what? This team's got to concentrate on this Michigan program, and this is the matchup that we wanted. I mean, this is it. I say we just go ahead and give for Tony on the message earlier. We just go ahead and give Harbaugh the rule book because he says everybody cheats. Give him our plays and just say, hey, man, have at it.
Right. I think we could give them the playbook and they still wouldn't beat Alabama.
That's my point.
Yeah, give me a break.
Yeah.
Boy, man, I can't believe it. That's great. No, Mick, we got to go to Pasadena for sure.
I think so too, man. I think we got to
go to Pasadena. One person will probably stay on the sidelines is going to be Ric Flair.
Is he going to be there? The nature boy?
He's the big Mexican guy.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Man, can you believe this?
Wow.
I mean, this is just, to me, I'm still kind of in shock right now.
But this was the ultimate out for them, I believe. Like I said at the very beginning, you put Texas in, you don't have to have that argument between Alabama and Texas. You have an argument between Alabama and Florida State, and then you say, well, Alabama, better resume. Yeah, sure, Florida State went undefeated, but they've got an injured quarterback. They're down to their third string. The resumes just they don't compare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of their thinking.
Well,
I'm glad they put Texas in there.
I am too. I mean, I thought they were one of the 4 best teams. I just was watching the Florida State game last night, and I'm watching the struggle, and they couldn't move the ball in offense. And then the officiating in the game was suspiciously friendly for them, and it was like Louisville would get a big play, and there was always a penalty flag, and then. And then they then they threw an interception and they couldn't block. And it wasn't that didn't feel like what I watched when I watched Texas rip down the field on Oklahoma State. That didn't look like the game I watched Friday night where Washington started fast and Michael Penix was spreading the ball around the field and they played a really fast pace. And that didn't feel like that heavyweight fight in Atlanta yesterday, where you could feel 2 Goliaths going back and forth. The shame of it is Georgia's one of the 4 best teams. They just lost that game last night, and because of that, they're out this time around. But that Florida State, it was almost like a loss for them because they just weren't good enough. They weren't on the same level, and it's more than the eye test. It's that they had bad fortune. They lost their quarterback. And it wasn't like their offense was prolific before that, but it just once he was gone, and they couldn't move the ball. They were lucky to get out of there with a win. If they would have played a decent team, they probably would have lost. And I still felt like the committee was going to put Florida State in because they didn't lose. But part of this too, Brett, is that last year Bama was out when they should have been in. But the argument was, it was a loss argument. Well, they lost 2 games. Yeah, they lost 2 games on the last play, but they had the best players. They were the best draw. But the SEC had a team with Georgia, and they had a team that played and won their conference championship. And that is what really derailed Alabama last year. Some bad fortune. If they would have left Alabama out again this year and not had a team from the SEC, it wouldn't have been a real championship. It would have been it. No one's going to sit around and say, hey, what would Florida State have done? Because everyone knows that they would have been by far the weakest seed in the whole tournament. By putting Bama in there, now Booger, who everyone keeps talking about, anti-Bama Booger, he has something to complain about now for the next, month.
We'll call it Bama Booger. No, you're right. I mean, you're right, and I think the committee they did the right thing. This is how it should shape up. Obviously, Michigan and Washington both were locks, but I'm just glad Bama eked in there, and man, I'm still kind of in disbelief, but we're going to the Rose Bowl. But yeah, you're right too about Georgia. I feel bad for them because do I think they're better than Washington?
Right.
Yeah. Do I think they're better than Michigan? Yeah, probably so.
Well, the
I
thing
don't know.
about
I
it,
think
yeah, I mean, and honestly, I can say this now, and it's not going to make Georgia feel any better, but they didn't win the SEC, and that's why they're out. This won't happen again. A team like Georgia and a team like Alabama and a team like Florida State will get in. And this year, Brett, I haven't been for the college football playoff. It changed my perspective because with NIL and with transfer portal, you're getting teams, you're getting a group of super teams. And, this is a way for them all to play. It's not like it used to be where you'd have one or, you have one team that's undefeated and like 2 one-loss teams. It's a whole group of teams that are in that category.
Yeah, you're right. And how much fun would it have been to have had the 12-team playoff this year?
Yeah, this year would have been the year to do it, right?
Yeah. And that would have been a lot of fun to watch because you have a lot of good teams out there, Obviously, Florida State being left out in the cold, Georgia, there's several out there that if we had a 12-team playoff starting this year,
right?
Man, that'd be a lot of fun to watch. But I'm just glad we're in the Final Four.
Do you think that when they and I'll put this back up here, this is I don't have the complete college football playoff listings yet, and I'm curious to see where everyone goes for their bowl games, but. It's Michigan, Washington, Alabama, Texas, and Alabama. And Bama was winning week after week, and they wouldn't move them. They just kept them at 8. And I think that the power of that win over Georgia. I mean, when you start to look at it, I'll tell you this right here, and I'm going to go back to my thought, but Texas is lucky that they beat Alabama. Because if they would have said that Alabama would have lost to somebody else and Texas would have, beaten somebody else in its spot, it'd be Florida State in over Texas. Now, I think this really came down to Texas and Florida State because when you really look at it, you can't keep the SEC out because they've just been so dominant over the years, right? I mean, every year they win the tournament, so if somebody's going to win it, they need to beat the SEC. But with Texas having that win over Alabama, I mean, they wouldn't stop talking about it. It made their whole season, and Alabama doesn't lose a lot of games, period, not even at home. It was a perfect storm in that game and we talked about it over and over on here, but it was the perfect storm of losing guys and Chris Lowe told me the toughest thing for Nick Saban is when he gets new coaches that not only are you changing over the players and teaching them what you want, you got to teach the coaches what you want from them too. And so it's tough for him because he can't be in every room at the same time. And obviously when they played Texas, it was the beginning of this process. And then eventually, the team got good and they got better and they got better and they got better. And then by the time they played Georgia yesterday, Bama's the best team in the country, and it's going to play out in the college football playoffs. It just is. We're going to find out, right?
Yeah, we're going to find out. And the chairman of the committee's on ESPN now, and he's talking a little bit. I was trying to catch a little bit of what he was talking about, but in picking Alabama over Florida State, and they're using that card of the offensive dynamics not there without their starting quarterback, and the resumes, really you can't compare. They did do a live look of the reveal down in Florida at Florida State.
Right.
And you're talking about a sad looking room.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Man, I feel for the kids, but, somebody had to be left out, and it's not Alabama. Not this year.
Well, Brett, I came on here thinking that it was – I just came on here feeling like that I didn't think we had it. I didn't think they were going to put us in. Seeing the AP where that poll was, I just didn't see it coming.
Well, I mean, you felt like I did earlier in the week, and I told you earlier in the week, I said I just don't think they're going to let us in, win or lose. But I just had a better feeling last night. This fresh on the committee's mind. Alabama proved that they deserve to be in the top four. You stop a really well coached Georgia team that won 29 games in a row, 2-time defending national champion. You've done something. I mean, how much more do you have to prove?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be in the top four. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, right. It's a thing of beauty,
but
man.
the rest of the poll and a lot of the bowl games will be projected at 1:30, I believe, Central Time. They only did the top 6 right now, and they're going through all the interviews, and Coach Saban will be coming on here shortly.
What do you think?
But,
do you think Alabama knew that they were going to get in?
No. And I'm surprised I didn't see any. Alabama didn't even have a watch party.
Right. Which is probably telling.
Yeah, they didn't even have a watch party. I don't. Probably the only team that didn't have a watch party. But Coach Saban said last night that they weren't going to have one. That they'd just meet with players, mid-afternoon, and they had recruiting and breaking down film to do, and then they didn't have time for a watch party.
Well, I'll tell you this right now.
Typical Saban.
Yeah, and I will tell you this right now that Commissioner Sankey, he deserves a lot of credit because he got the job done.
Yeah.
Because this was one of those deals where they very easily could have left us out. And if Alabama wasn't, if the SEC wasn't willing to go in there and duke it out, then they wouldn't have got in. So
that's right. He went to bat and he hit home run. But you can't leave the SEC out. I don't care what anyone says. You can't leave the SEC champion out of the playoff. The best conference in college football. And you can't also be punished for a game that you lost that you didn't even have to play.
Right.
We played Texas because we scheduled them as a marquee matchup instead of Ball State. And you lose the game early in the season. What was that? The second game of the season?
Yeah. Yep.
We run the gauntlet of the SEC and win the championship. There's no argument. Alabama is. I don't care about the other ones. Alabama deserves to be in that top 4.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so what do you think about Bama, Michigan? I mean, your initial thoughts on the Tide and the Wolverines. I mean, this is it's Michigan last year. They lost this game to TCU. It was the biggest upset in the history to me of the college football playoff. And they get a chance at redemption, and then they're going to play an Alabama team that we've seen, play. They always seem to play well enough to win. They played the best game of the season that they've played all year yesterday against Georgia. I still don't think that Alabama's played a complete game yet, but they got as close as they have yesterday in my mind.
Yeah, and we mentioned it last night. I thought in watching the ball game that's the first time really all season I thought these guys here could win a national championship. But yeah, Michigan, what three straight uh, Big Ten titles. Their third college football playoff appearance. They've lost twice in the semifinals. Um, I like the matchup. Um, I'm not a big fan of Jim Harbaugh, and I hope we go and steamroll them, and set up a matchup probably with my probably my dream matchup out of this playoff would be Alabama and Texas for the title.
Rematch for the title.
Right, and there's a lot of storylines there too. The redemption factor, and that would be but Michigan, they're number one in the country. They're number one for a reason. You know, but I just don't think they play the brand of football that Alabama plays, and they don't play in the SEC. I'm sorry, but we'll see come January 1st.
Yeah. So a great comment on here, Liam. 69, I guess, or maybe 169. Michigan is a slower and less talented version of Georgia. I see it the exact same way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. Yeah.
I just love the fact that that this is the first round matchup, and honestly, is the last time we went to the Rose Bowl when we played Texas in 2009?
Right. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, me too. As that stadium is the Wrigley Field of college football.
Oh, beautiful.
It's just there's something about that.
We got on a bus. And the bus driver took a wrong turn. And hell, I didn't know the thing. It was like we were going through a residential neighborhood.
Yeah. It's. I'm telling you, it's like a Wrigley Field. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going through this residential neighborhood, and then all of a sudden you come out, and here's this epic stadium with a backdrop of some mountains and everything, and just an absolute gorgeous stadium.
Right.
No, it'll be great to go back to the Rose Bowl, man. That is what a grand place to play, and what a great helmet game. Michigan, Alabama in the Rose Bowl. How cool is that?
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just pumped, man. I mean, this has turned out to be. We were talking about this before. There was a guy that used to drive NASCARs, who had a mustache and always he drove the black number 3 car, and they called him the Intimidator.
Yeah.
And the guy would kind of hang out in the back, and then when you'd watch him, he'd just start like blowing by everybody at the tracks like Talladega and Daytona, and this is kind of this Alabama. This is kind of an Intimidator type of race for them. Like they were at 8, and now all of a sudden they slide in at 4. But they're the most dangerous team of this group.
Oh yeah, they're on a mission. They've been disrespected every week up until this week, and we talked about it every week, Mick.
Yeah.
And I'll say we're stuck at 8th. They're not moving us anywhere. We can't get any traction. And yeah, I had my doubts too that we would make it into the playoff, but not until last night. I thought, no, they're going to have to put us in.
Yeah.
They're going to have to put us in. So But yeah, I just feel like the best coaching job Saban has ever done, and that will be capitalized if we win the national championship.
Yeah. Well, of this group of teams, if Alabama does what Alabama does, they're going to win it. They take care of the things they got to take care of, they're going to win this thing. And when you're trying to sell TV ratings, and by the way, I put the phone number up, 205-955-7615, if any of you guys want to jump in. This field, it's honestly, it's kind of like what we saw last year for Georgia, with no Alabama in the field. It's like like playing a hockey game and you pulled the goalie. These teams, they're just not going to stack up against this Alabama team if they do the things that they're capable of doing. And remember, last year Ohio State did give Georgia quite a tussle in the first round, and then of course the second round was just dismal to watch. Unless you were a Georgia fan, and God bless Kirby for just like pounding him into submission, because I think if this would have been if TCU would have played Georgia last year like they belonged, I don't know that I think the committee puts Florida State in. But look, Brett, thanks for calling in, brother. Yeah. I'm going to jump on some other calls here, but love you, bro. Roll Tide.
All right, brother. Roll Tide.
All right, let's go to the phone lines and get some reactions from you guys about this. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Montana calling from Miami.
Montana, thanks, brother. You're my guy, man. How you doing?
What's up? I'm good. I'm glad the committee just did the right thing. That's all. I mean, I sent you over this stuff this week. Like, yeah, they picked the best four. I mean, Michigan is the least tested of all these, so I'm glad that Alabama has the matchup with them. I think Washington's a lot more dangerous. So
tell everybody, and you're awesome, man. You sent us like graphs of basically the teams that were in the college football playoff. That we're in the group of teams that could possibly make it, and you actually went and statistically broke it all down. And what you found from your research was that Alabama was by far the most deserving of the one-loss teams.
Yeah. So basically, at first, all year people have been saying the SEC's down because their out-of-conference record isn't what it used to be. And I was like, that doesn't make a ton of sense because it's a very small sample size and it's week to week. And I feel like the Big Ten gets a lot of credit for having two teams that are good at the top, typically, which is Michigan, Ohio State. So I wanted to go conference by conference, 1 through 12 in the Pac-12 case, or 1 through 14 in the other Power 5 conferences. And like, how good is the 6th best team or the 10th best team or the 3rd best team in each conference? And no matter how you broke it down, the SEC was best top to bottom. Their top third was the best. Their middle third was the best compared to other middle thirds, and their bottom third was the best. So I don't know where like the narrative that the SEC is inferior to other conferences or to a past version of themselves comes. And then I broke down the top 8 teams going into this week. And
let me ask you this. Can you see the screen right? Montana, can you see the screen right now? If I put your graph up, you kind of just tell me about it.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me get it up. I'm gonna put your graph up that you sent. And Chad said he thanked he thought you were a girl, and I thought, well, maybe Chad knows something I don't know. It never came off to me like that, but you handled it well. That's probably why Chad's hiding from us right now. All right, there's your first graph. Explain this one.
Yeah, so this is basically if we take each of the top 8 teams, like the contenders going into today, and we look at their median like team. So we take all the teams they played this year in the FBS, both in conference and out of conference, and we basically find their like median, which is similar to an average for those who maybe don't have a stats background, but it takes out the outliers. So really bad teams and really good teams, like it's less skewed by that.
Right.
you want a low number here. So the lower your bars are, the more difficult your week in and week out schedule has been. We can see Alabama is clearly the hardest, followed by kind of Georgia, Washington, Texas, which is why I think Texas is probably the biggest threat in the playoff because they've been tested. And then Ohio State and Oregon, kind of the middle. And then Florida State and Michigan are, clearly have had the easiest path to get to where they are, which is confusing that Michigan has slid under the radar in terms of, they're for sure number one and Florida State's sitting at number 5. If I was Florida State, my argument wouldn't be against Bama. It would be, well, why is Michigan ahead of us?
Right.
They have the same record in an equally inferior conference. And their win against Ohio State is slightly better than our win against LSU. But week in and week out, we've played a equal or more difficult schedule. Yeah, this is the average. So these things get skewed a little bit because, like, one really hard team can lift up your whole season, and it doesn't take in the week in, the week out. So I kind of like the median, but in either case, Alabama still the toughest path. Texas still the second toughest. I think that'll be the rematch.
Right.
In the national championship, barring anything crazy.
Yeah, and the lower you are on this, the better you are. And here's the 3 toughest opponents, which I thought was this was another really good, analytic.
Yeah. They always say, like, who are your big wins? And this doesn't take into account your win-loss. Like, if you lose, like, it'll look the same, but we know who's won and who's lost these games. And Ohio State, they played tough teams. They played Michigan, they played Penn State, and they played out-of-conference Notre Dame, so that's why they're there. Alabama, obviously, tough as well. Washington and Oregon, they played each other, so that's why it looks pretty similar. But again, like, Florida State and Michigan hasn't really played anyone, and Florida State, being the easiest, and I think this is probably why the results skewed the way it was. Their best win is Alabama's third best win,
right?
Against LSU.
Yeah, and then last night was like kind of the icing on the cake, Montana, because we want to judge like the best wins, right? So up until last night, the best win was Texas beating Alabama, second game of the season. Michigan over Ohio State to me is overrated, but it's the second best win. And then I guess the third best win happened twice, right? Washington over Oregon. But clearly, last night's Bama win over Georgia in Atlanta for the SEC championship, ending a team that had won back-to-back championships and 29-game winning streak, which was the longest in SEC history. That, to me, had to be the best win.
Yeah, 100%. It is the best win. And, I think the interesting thing, too, is if you go back to the median one, you see Washington and Oregon, like the Pac-12 has been highly touted this year as maybe the best conference. I think it's probably second best. The SEC is still the best. But Washington has had a much harder path through the Pac-12 than Oregon. So when that line was like 9.5 in Oregon's favor, it didn't make a ton of sense. And obviously Washington, more battle tested, came out with the win. So yeah, I think going by that, like, Alabama should feel pretty good. They've had a tough road, and Michigan's kind of had a far easier schedule. So
mute that TV back there. Well, give me your thoughts on the on this matchup with Michigan, and then I'm gonna get back to taking some more calls. But man, great stuff, by the way, and thank you for taking the initiative to do that and send it to us, because we talked about it a lot, and we were trying to figure out how to use it, and you coming on and talking about it was perfect, because Chad kind of got into it on Friday night, and then and we talked a little bit afterwards, and we were like, man, this is great stuff. Would you just do this for a living? I mean, you're like an analytics guy, or it's just like a passion for you?
No, my background's in math. I don't do, so I do like a lot of analytics in my day job, but yeah, I just love college football, and kind of already have some like systems and stuff that follow this for my own stuff. So I thought it'd be interesting to throw together, and if you guys, Alabama fans might be interested, and I'm an Alabama fan, I just gotta respect what Nick Saban's built. So I think this shows, like, on paper, I mean, I think Alabama's a more talented roster than Michigan. You can look at the recruits. I think they have an edge in coaching, an edge in experience. I mean, and they've had a harder path to get here. So when they get on the field, I don't think Michigan will have seen the athletes and the speed and the strength that Alabama will have, that they do have. And conversely, Alabama has seen faster, stronger teams. Best case would have been Georgia yesterday. So I think there will be like maybe a bit of a more shock to Michigan, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama maybe jumps out on it a little bit early and then is able to, play the clock and control the game. That's my thoughts. I'd much rather play Michigan than Washington. So
right, and then figure out which of the two offense, because I think styles wise, and I mean, look, we always say styles make games, but to me, the style of these games is Michigan and and Alabama kind of have a similar style. They want to run the football, maybe be a little bit more balanced, and Texas and Washington are going to be more, fast-paced, offensive style teams, right? So, I mean, it feels like it's kind of a really unique matchup. And then you get the winner of Michigan, Alabama, that style against Texas and Washington. And for Alabama, I mean, we already saw Texas, but I'd like to see what Texas would be like against, a defense that actually can get plays called in and a quarterback that actually knows how to answer when Texas scores. I mean, I felt like some of those scores that Texas had were pure luck. Like the one touchdown that Ewers threw, and it was like a pop-up and the guy ran under it. I just don't know that those are going to work again.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State, I don't watch much Big 12 football, but Oklahoma State's defense was really poor. So I think they'll get a better test against Washington, and I know they'll get a better test against Alabama. I think Alabama's got the best defense in the country, especially after yesterday, dethroning Georgia, who probably until then you would say maybe had the best defense in the country. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think Texas-Bama rematch is very much alive, and it'd be nice to avenge the one loss on the season for sure.
Awesome. Well, Montana, thanks, brother, and a roll tide to you down in Miami.
Yeah, roll tide. Thanks.
Awesome stuff. All right, that's Montana, man. That's our guy right there. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again. I know some of you guys are waiting. We're going to get to those, all you guys. Who's this and where you calling from? What's up? You there?
Mike.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, this is Blake from Bama, man. First time caller. Thanks for taking my call, man.
Hey, Bama, what's up, man? Roll tide to you. You feeling pretty good about life right now?
You damn right. And first thing I want to say is, what is up with all these Auburn fans kissing up to Georgia all of a sudden? Are we seriously going to sit here and act when they say, well, if a penalty went this way or a penalty went that way, the score would have been different? Are we seriously going to sit here and act like Georgia didn't get away with some shit last night?
No, I know. Come on. That's all. At the end of the day, it's all crying. I mean, I thought that they did a good job officiating the football game last night. It was way better than Auburn. And, of course, Gary Danielson, who I hope I never have to hear another game that the guy calls.
Oh my God!
He knows
brother.
That the ball wasn't caught. You're playing it back, and it's like, look, that there's nothing guaranteed that they would have overturned that. It looked like a catch to me. Okay?
Oh, absolutely. Because he caught the ball. Because they say as long as you have control of it, the ball can touch the ground.
Yeah, right.
And the tip of it did touch the ground, but he had control of it. He wasn't going to drop that ball.
The other part of it too is when you're running a fast offense like that, you're not trying to stop and say, hey, check this and check that. Like, it looked like an obvious catch. They slowed it down, and I don't know that it would have been overturned. I'm just going to be glad not to have to listen to Gary Danielson anymore. I don't know about you, but I've kind of. It's going to be nice to.
I'm sick of Gary. I'm sick of Gary Danielson too. I cannot believe he is allowed to call SEC football, but when it comes down to it, and these teams from these other conferences, Gary Danielson is so anti-SEC, it's sickening. I don't even know why he called it a game for.
Right.
And here's another thing that just gets me about this Auburn Georgia love fest already. Does Auburn fans not realize that during every year, Georgia fans talk just as much trash about Auburn before they play Auburn than they do us?
Oh yeah.
But yet, here's Auburn just loving all over them already. And here's another thing. What if this push for Florida State? I have listened to these podcasts. They are saying right now, Florida at their best couldn't even beat Auburn right now.
Right.
But yet, Auburn is making a push for Florida State to get in, and they would pick y'all over Florida State today? That makes no sense to me.
I saw a graph. I saw a graph that Georgia is 40-0 against everybody except Alabama, and they're 1-2 against them.
Exactly.
Bama's the formula that stops that, and the rest of college football can't. Auburn, I love the hate that I've seen from some of the Auburn folks this week, because it's kind of like the the stages of grief. Like you go through the stages of grief. And, it's like shock, and then sadness, and then anger, and then eventually it'll be understanding, like, they're kind of in the anger stage right now because they had Alabama and they let them off the hook. And guess who's playing for the national championship in the tournament again this year?
You got that right, brother.
You know what? It's
Alabama. Because let me tell you something, Mike. I absolutely want this Texas rematch.
Oh, me too.
I absolutely do. And Texas didn't want it.
No, but we got to get by Michigan. And honestly, like, the whole cheating scandal to me is something that we've overlooked. They're not on our schedule. I didn't think that the punishment was really fit the crime, but the NCAA has really no teeth anymore. But to go out and steal signs and have like an organized, person that goes out, steals signs, logs on their computer, basically breaks the rules is wrong. And I'd love to see Alabama be the team that ends their season, and then I think Harbaugh has been, I got a feeling he's going to the NFL. I think that he's had enough of college football. And I think college football has had enough of him. Not me. Actually, I like having him in there. I honestly don't have anything personal against him. I think he's good for the game. But when you get suspended for 6 of the 12 regular season games, it really should be a sign that you're not good for this league. Go to the NFL where, maybe that stuff's tolerated a little bit more. But down here, part of it is educating people to do things the right way. That's kind of what you want your coach to do, is to teach people to do things the right way. And when you're constantly cheating and breaking the rules and getting in trouble for it, I don't know that sets a great example. So, but as a football coach, yeah, he's fine. And I would love to see Alabama be the one that kind of sends him to the NFL.
And I'll say this one last thing to the Auburn fans real quick. If you want to be that anti-Alabama, that's fine. Go ahead. But think about this. In this almost 3-year run Georgia had, who is the only 2 teams that have given Georgia the most fits? We have. Mm-hmm. Both of us have.
Yeah.
They beat y'all by 7 this year in Jordan Hare. There is no 2 teams other than Alabama and Auburn in this last almost 3-year run that they've had that has given Auburn more trouble than the Bama teams have.
That's right.
Am I lying?
Yeah, no, you're not. You're exactly right. Well, thanks for calling in.
So,
what's that?
So get on with it, Auburn. Don't sit up there and kiss everybody but you. We're the Alabama school. We shouldn't want teams from other schools beating us.
Yeah, believe it or not.
You carry our name.
That's
Represent us.
That's right. Believe it or not, I pull for the SEC. That includes Auburn.
Exactly.
Yeah,
there you go.
I do. And that includes
If
Georgia.
it's SEC, that's what matters. Don't root against us.
Yeah.
But thank you, Mike. I appreciate you, brother, man. And huge fan of the show. Love you, man.
Hey, love you, man. Roll Tide. Thanks for calling in. And let's go back to the phone lines again and hear what you guys think. Bama's in. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, it's Ice.
Ice, baby. Ice, I can't believe we got in, man. I didn't wake up feeling good about today, but I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah. You and me both, man. I was watching that FSU Louisville game, and I was like, there's just no way that this team is better than Alabama. There's just no way. And I just had that sneaking suspicion that they're just going to throw them in anyways, like they did it last year with TCU. And do I think that Alabama necessarily deserved to go in last year over TCU? No, but TCU still wasn't the better team, and they already said this season that they're putting the better teams in. They're one of the 4 best teams, and I think that they kind of got that. I mean, if we're going to put the 4 best teams in, then it should be Georgia in there too. Georgia is one of the best teams, and the reason why Alabama is in is because Georgia is one of the best teams. We beat them. But I am happy that they got at least that part right. Have you seen Michigan's reaction yet, Mick?
No, I haven't. I've been talking to you guys. So were they excited?
Okay, yeah. Oh boy, they are so happy. Oh man, they look excited to play Alabama. I know you probably can't see the sarcasm in that one.
Yeah, that's good.
When I hop off the phone, I'll send you the video on Twitter. It's actually pretty funny. They do not look excited.
Well, they
at
should
all.
be. I mean, you know, how about Chris Stewart's call last night? Did you hear him? He's like, he does such a good job on play-by-play. He's like, try to keep us out. I dare you, you know, like, so I just thought that, I don't know. I think that what hurt Florida State is that they let TCU in last year when TCU shouldn't have been in. And the fact that TCU got in and then made such an embarrassment of themselves in that championship game, that's why Kirk Herbstreit's like, we got to put the 4 best teams in. We can't put the most deserving teams in. Well, you put the most deserving teams in, then Liberty should be in too, right? And then if you put Liberty in and you put Florida State in, like, hey, look, none of those teams lost. But when you have 100 and some teams, your scheduling and your strength of schedule matters. And Alabama went out and played Texas, which is another one of the teams, by the way, in that college football playoff list. And they're the only schools that played each other of those 4 teams, obviously Alabama and Texas. And that's the only game that Alabama lost. So Bama lost one game to number 3. Then they beat Georgia. They beat the Heisman Trophy winner, most likely, at LSU. They survived Auburn. I mean, this is a team of destiny. They've got the most dynamic player in football. I think when it's all said and done, Jalen Milro could be our Bo Jackson. How about that?
Oh, absolutely. Jalen Milro will be etched into Alabama history as one of the greatest, and not because of necessarily his stats, but the adversity that he overcame as an Alabama quarterback.
And his athleticism.
And another thing, before I actually forget this point too, to the Florida State fans that might be listening to this, it would not be fair to Florida State to put them into the playoffs. It really wouldn't be, because nobody wants to see Florida State go in there and play Texas or Michigan or whoever and get blown out of the water. This Florida State team, maybe with Jordan Travis, might have had a better shot, but they don't have it. They're down to their 3rd string quarterback, and maybe they get their 2nd string back, and they should go and get a respectable bowl game. Get in the Year 6 bowl, go to the Orange Bowl or something, and maybe win that. And next year, Florida State could very well be a playoff caliber team, and I would be excited to see them in there. But it's it's just not fair to see this Florida State team go into the playoffs and come up empty-handed like that. Can we all agree on that one?
Yeah. I look, Florida State last night had a chance to make a statement, Ice, and the statement that they made was that they're not good anymore. That the statement that they made is that they don't have an offense. The statement that they made is that they're not elite and they're not part of this conversation. What the crazy thing is, though, and we just got the coaches poll, is that Florida State was in the top 4 in both the AP and the coaches poll. So we talked about this. The writers have had a bias against Alabama all year. They're sick of seeing Alabama win. There's a lot of reasons that they don't like the Crimson Tide, and even with the win over Georgia, they had Alabama up to 5. So they had Michigan, Washington, Texas, Florida State, Alabama. The coaches have been they get it. They know what Alabama represents, and this is what probably should have been done. Okay, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and Alabama ahead of Texas, because I think the coaches are looking at it and they're going, yeah, I get it. Texas beat Alabama. They lost to Oklahoma. But in all actuality, Bama should have gone ahead of Texas. But the committee, just like the AP, had this thing where they're like, well, we can't put Alabama ahead of Texas because they won. They won week 2. That was a different football team. And I think that the coaches kind of understood that, So Texas beat Oklahoma State, but that win wasn't nearly as good as what Bama's done, including beating Georgia. And I think that when you look at it, the SEC's got to be in this tournament. It came down to Florida State and Texas. And because Texas beat Alabama and they had this whole thing like, well, if Alabama moves, well, we need to move Texas. I think that's what kept Florida State out more than Alabama kept them out. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. And and again, like to the Florida State fans, like it really would not be fair to put them in to the Florida State fan base too. Because what I'm saying is this Florida State team has been better than they have been in the past, but they're not that type of team. Now, it would be interesting. Just go have them play Iowa, because neither of them can play offense right now, and we'll just see a defensive slugfest, and they would be 3-2.
Right. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that'd be an interesting bowl game to watch. So, anyways, Nick, I'm on my way to work. I'll listen into the rest of the show at work, and I'm gonna send you that video of Michigan players reacting to this election.
Thanks, brother. Great talking to you, Ice. That's Iceman out in Florida. Let's go back to the phone lines again and keep it going, man. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, man, it's Robert from Mobile.
Robert, man, we did it. We did it, Robert. I can't believe it.
Yeah, we are in like Flynn. I guess that lends a little credence to your friends' conversation we had earlier. But okay, Alabama, maybe we didn't need the style point, and maybe it's just win and you were in. Maybe that was still the case, but it was sure. I guess we did need a style point.
We needed him,
like,
Robert.
When it came down to what style point?
I love Chad. Chad's my guy.
Florida
but
State
he was
didn't have a
wrong.
style point.
You were right, and he was wrong. If he was here, I'd tell him that. You were exactly right. This was a year you had to have style points. You just had to have them, especially down the stretch when Alabama wasn't getting any. They weren't getting any help at all. Win after win after win. Like they needed to beat up on UTC. Just to leave the impression that this team's clicking on all cylinders. They needed to score those points against LSU. And honestly, like the game against Auburn was a typical Alabama Auburn game. It is what it is down there. And then the game against Georgia turned out to be what it was. But when you made that statement, the style point statement, you hit the nail on the head. It mattered. And Bama, I'm going to tell you this too. We got in, but we got in by the skin of our teeth, man. This wasn't there was nothing guaranteed about this. We could have just as easily been left out.
Yeah, had Florida State accumulated style points after their quarterback went out, we wouldn't be in. They didn't. The committee started to drop off after their starting quarterback went out was just too huge. What got people were playing to Ohio State got in when their quarterbacks went out. Yeah, but what Ohio State did was they realized, we're on the fence. So we got to get some style points in here. And they eviscerated Wisconsin. That's what Florida State had to do. And they eviscerated a much better team in Wisconsin, Ohio State did, than Florida State had to do against Louisville. Louisville was horrid. Their quarterback was horrible.
Yeah.
Louisville's quarterback. And you still failed to show that your team was vastly superior to a mediocre Louisville team.
Yeah.
Had Florida State accumulate, did to Louisville what Texas did to Oklahoma State, hey, I think Alabama wouldn't be in.
Yeah.
Because if you did that, because the committee would say, hey, okay, you lost your starting quarterback, but the drop off isn't that as huge. Isn't that huge? So here you are, and Florida State failed to get style points.
Yeah.
And that's what got knocked out.
Yeah. Well, and you're exactly right. Like when you play a team like Louisville that got beat by like the 9th best team in our conference, of 12, right? They got beat by number 9 or number 8 or something. No one, everybody beat Kentucky this year. And then Louisville comes in, they got one loss. They're playing for your conference championship and you lose to them at home. Okay, that matters. So then if you're Florida State, you're a favorite in this game. You're competing to play for the college football playoff. You got to go and make it look like you lost your quarterback, but it hadn't changed anything. But what the bottom line was, and like you said, Robert, there were no style points in that game. It looked like they could barely even they couldn't move the football, and they got all the calls, and it was just it just felt like it felt like you were watching a team that hadn't played a game all year, like at the beginning of the season, not the last game of the season.
Exactly.
So they're the ACC champs. Exactly. They got that, and I would love to see them matched up against Liberty, and then one team would be undefeated at the end of the year. That'd be cool.
Joy Galloway, I watched because ESPN. He was outstanding. His commentary and perspective was outstanding on why Alabama should be in. He told Booker McFarland, who was for some reason the cheerleader of Florida State, said, "Hey man, Booker McFarland was all over Florida State. I mean, the kids deserve to get something. They did what they're supposed to do." And Joe Galloway said, "Yeah, they got the trophy for the ACC championship. That's what that was for, and they got it. But they are not one of the 4 best teams in college football.
They're not.
And that is the committee's task to get the 4 best teams. You can't look at that team and look at Alabama and say, those are your 2 choices. Okay, which one's the better team? You're going to have to go with Alabama. Going undefeated and having an undefeated season, they got you the ACC championship.
Yeah.
Good and dandy. But it doesn't get you into the college football playoffs because you're not that good.
Hey, look,
end of the conversation.
Yeah, there's a guy on here on the message board, and I'm going to put him up some of his comments, because I would feel the same way if I was a Florida State fan, except I wouldn't think that Bama sucks. But I would feel like I wouldn't play in a bowl game. If I was Florida State, I might not play. If I'm protesting that I think I should be in, but you made the point here.
Yeah.
Is that you're playing your 3rd string quarterback, and Florida State wasn't good enough to play their 3rd string quarterback and move the football. They just didn't. They didn't pass the eye test. And like Robert's saying, it's not that people don't respect your game. It's just that you would have been a 21-point underdog against Alabama with the 3rd string quarterback. You would have had your regular quarterback, and it probably would have been around 9. And it's the 4 best teams. And the good thing is that Florida State's program is obviously on the move up, and that next year they'll get in if they have a season like this. But they got to get a little bit more depth at quarterback, man. That's all there is to it. I mean, I agree. I agree that I would be upset if I was a Florida State fan. But as a college football fan, man, I don't want to watch them get boat raced like TCU last year. I just don't want to see that.
Anybody with a pair of eyes knows that if Alabama and Florida State had played each other yesterday, that game would have been over at halftime. Alabama would have been up 30-0 by halftime. And the game would have been over. If you couldn't move the ball on Louisville the way Alabama was playing yesterday, you you get shut out.
Yeah,
You wouldn't have a point. So yeah, it's not a contest.
Yeah. I'm gonna say one more thing, and then I'm gonna go to another call. I want to see what you think, though. Is if Alabama just makes one of those picks that Carson Beck threw right to him. I mean, think about what you talk about style points. Bama left some points out on the field because they kept dropping those interceptions.
Yeah, absolutely they did. And Milro missed a few plays that he could have made early in the game. That's the best thing. Alabama is this good, and our quarterback has not hit his ceiling yet. If Milro's ceiling is the second coming of Cam Newton level.
Yeah,
that's his level. That's his ceiling.
True.
If he would have hit his ceiling, it would be the second coming of Cam Newton. Hopefully next season he'll want to be the second coming of Cam Newton. Dude, that's your ceiling. So stop holding yourself back. The only person holding Milro back is himself. And if he ever stops doing that, he'll be the second coming of Cam Newton.
Yeah, that's right, man. Well, roll tide, Robert. Great to hear from you. Feeling good, man.
Roll tide.
Robert from Mobile is one of my All-American callers. Let's go back to the phone line again and keep talking about this. Alabama's in the playoff. Who's this and where you calling from?
It's calling from Roanoke.
What's up?
Look, they talking crazy. It's calling from Roanoke. What's up?
You got to.
They talking crazy about Alabama not being in play, about Florida not being in playoffs.
What do you think?
They talking crazy about Alabama not being. Florida may be good now, but I don't think Florida got no chance because that quarterback they had, he went down and they just went over the board.
Yeah, he did. You got to turn down the. We're hearing the refurb. Just turn down the sound on YouTube when you talk to us. But I'm with you. Look, Florida State's offense wasn't good enough to hang with this crew. I mean,
it wasn't good enough when they played against Louisville.
Yeah, I mean, did you watch last night and think was there ever a part of that game where you said that these guys would give Alabama trouble if they played head-to-head?
Nope.
Did you think they would beat
Alabama
Michigan?
Beat them. Who? Florida can beat Michigan.
You think Florida State would Florida State have beat any of the teams in the top 4 right now?
No.
And that's
not at all.
I don't think it would have been a contest with any of them.
And Georgia may have been number 1 team, but they couldn't do nothing with Alabama last night.
What was your favorite part of the game?
We got to that QB. They thought we weren't going to get back to that QB in second.
And that was, I'll tell you, that's the thing that no other team was able to do. And that's put pressure on Carson Beck. Yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah.
He hadn't been put down all year. He hadn't been put down all year until last night.
Oh, yeah. We got back there to him, though. Some teams couldn't even get back there to the man.
No. So what's your prediction on the college football playoff? What's going to happen?
I got Alabama and Texas going at it.
And then how's that going to
turn? In championship. I got Alabama going all the way.
You ready to change that sticker to 19?
To 19? What you mean to 19?
19 championships.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to look good. I like 18, but I like 19 better until we get to 20.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be great. Anything else before I go to the next caller?
Oh, no, that's it.
Hey, roll tide, my friend.
Roll tide.
All right, let's go back to the phones and keep the calls coming in. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, roll tide. This is Phil out in San Francisco, California.
Phil Hastings. What's up, dude?
I'm still in shock. I mean, the last 2 weeks have been such an incredible joyride for us as Tide fans, and just want to soak it all in, and then to roll into this morning and wake up and your head's pounding from all the different scenarios that you were running through last night. it's crazy. And I know you were going through this as well. And we were texting a little bit, but it's like we finished the job that we needed to do. And then we had to sit back and watch to see if maybe there was an upset. So there wasn't as much thinking to have to be done. And then sure enough, those who were supposed to win won. And we woke up today with that same scenario of, oh my gosh, who do you keep out?
I know.
We sat here and watched it, and I almost felt like it was 4th and 31.
Yeah, me too.
We just did it again.
I didn't see, honestly, man. I got that feeling that we weren't going to get in. You know, I just thought that the momentum felt like last night we were getting in, and then it just kind of felt like it wasn't going to happen. So I'm elated.
Yeah, and I think that feeling creeps in because we know what the committee tends to do. And there was the concern that it was a rite of passage that you won your conference championship like Florida State did. So therefore, how do you keep out an undefeated conference champion? But again, are they going to, and like all the talking heads before us doing this right now, we're like, okay, but you said it's the top 4 teams who are best in the country right now.
Yeah, right.
And they to me, they got it right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just said this to the last guy I was talking to. Like, of the top teams, Phil, who's Florida State beating in this group? Are they beating Michigan?
No.
Are they beating Washington?
No.
Are they beating Texas?
No.
Are they beating Georgia?
And they're definitely not beating Bama.
Well,
they just,
right.
Unfortunately for them.
Are they going to beat Ohio State? Are they beating Oregon? When you look at the list of teams up at the top, you go down the list without a quarterback. Florida State's not beating any of these teams. They're not even beating Oregon. They're not beating Missouri. They're not beating Penn State. They're not beating Ole Miss, Oklahoma. They were basically trying to back into the championship game because that's what was going on. You know, they barely got by a bad Florida team, and they barely got by a team in Louisville that's not good either.
Look, I feel for them. I mean, they had everything right in front of them, and it was theirs to take, and an injury took it all away. And I hate to say that, but that's the game, right? We've dealt with that in other situations before in other sports of teams that we like, and it's not always going to go the way you want it to go, and injuries are a place in the game. It sucks. And honestly, in one team that you didn't mention that I also don't think they can beat is Georgia, the one-loss Georgia team. And how often, never, I guess as you should say, do you see the number 1 team lose and then get completely knocked out of this situation?
Yeah, and that's the tough one. Georgia's one of the top 4 teams.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that's what makes this conversation even harder.
Yeah. I mean, think about how good that game was. Like Florida State fans on here, and he's upset, and he's, F Bama and all this stuff. Man, you compare what you guys did against bad Louisville to what the Alabama-Georgia game was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, compare those two. Like, they weren't even on the same level. You know, Texas played a crappy team too, but they just beat the hell out of them.
Right.
You know, they just took care of business. They said, well, you know what? You can only handle who's on your schedule, right? Florida State was basically trying to back in, and we did that last year. We let a team back in last year. We let a team slip in. TCU, remember, they lost, and they didn't even move in the poll. They kept Alabama right behind them. They wouldn't move Alabama up. And what did we get? We got the worst debacle for a national championship game ever. Debacle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I feel for the Florida State fans, but at the same time, run it back. Do it again next year.
Yep.
You'll have a quarterback, and we'll see what'll happen. Hey, that game last night, yesterday afternoon, Bama Georgia was, gosh, wow, what a game. And I mean, look, we controlled the game. We didn't blow them out, but we controlled that game. And Milro didn't have his best game. And I would say Milro didn't have his best game because he went up against the best defense he's faced all year. But when time came to shine, he did it. And it was quite amazing to watch.
Yeah. Man, that is a great point. The guy's got nerves of steel, man. I mean, he just hangs in, doesn't he? I mean, he just does not get intimidated by the situation at all. And I love that about him.
No, he doesn't. I do too. Sometimes I think it gets him in a little trouble, and he'll take a sack, or he'll run across the line, scrimmage to the back, and try to throw it. And I think that's a good example of him just, you know what? I'll take what's in front of me, and I'll do what I can to get through this adversity that I'm facing right now. And I mean, the play last night where we get the ball back with a couple minutes to go, and I went to Travis's, and we were watching the game stressed out, and we just weren't feeling confident in the offense to be able to sustain a timely drive to run out that clock. And then he goes and has, on that first play, has that huge run.
That was
and then it's smart enough to slide and start running some clock. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how about the one that iced the game? You know, like, instead of messing around,
yep,
he just got the first down and it was over. Like, there was no dramatics to it. You know, there was no, hey, we're going to come down to the end and, you know, we're going to have to sweat it out. I was like, okay, I got this. This is me, guys. You just block. First down on that first play, first down to get to ice the game, take a knee, and guess what? Georgia's winning streak's over. How many times have I said it, Phil? The only reason Georgia won last year was because they didn't have to play Alabama. They kept Alabama out. That Georgia didn't have that luxury this year, and that's why that's what happened. What happened is what happened.
100%. 100%. Yes, that kid is really grown this year, both on the field and obviously off the field. That team rallies around him, and it's been fun to watch. It's easy for us to sit here with this winning track that we're on, but to say how fun it is, but it is a lot of fun. I love it.
Hey, Roll Tide, man. You going to Pasadena?
Well, let's just say I booked a hotel room just in case, because I can always cancel it. But yeah, I'm hoping to be out there.
Yeah, me too, man. I just feel like it's, you know, eventually the GOAT's going to retire. But this has been one of the best seasons I can ever remember, man. The coaching job, the way that this team's played, the way that they've overcome adversity, new coordinators, new quarterback, the way that the fans responded for Tennessee and LSU. And for those that went to the game in the Dome yesterday, you guys made a lot of damn noise. You were there. You know, this is just we've had some great years, and this is one of them. This is one of the best. So I'm hoping to go to the game too. But if I don't, you know what, I'll still be cheering here at the studio, and I'm pretty excited about it. Well, Roll Tide, brother.
Hey, real quick, I gotta tell you this. It was great the other day, and this to me shows again how lucky we are, and that we should appreciate what we've gotten to experience over these years since Saban signed on to be our coach, and then when he got us that first national championship under his belt in 2009. But a friend of Travis and mine, a good friend of ours, is a huge Cal Berkeley fan, and I mean goes to every game and just hoping that they make a bowl game. He goes on the road to see them. Huge fan. And he went out to Vegas this weekend and went to the Pac-12 championship. And he was jazzed. He's texting Travis and I, and he's talking about what the experience was like, big-time college football game. And he texted, he says, I look forward to the day that Cal is in a meaningful game like this. And I was like, yeah, buddy, I'm so excited for you, and I am. But then it made me take a step back and appreciate, because when we were in school, Nick, I mean, we had the one SEC championship run under DuBose, and then we were hyped up to 3, and we know we only had 3 wins that year in 2000. It's funny, that year kicked off at the Rose Bowl versus UCLA, but we didn't know what true Bama football winning was like in person. We as fans growing up, obviously we had the 92 championship we got to celebrate, but nothing there on campus when we were going there. And then in those other years, and then we got to Shula, and we had 05 and that Florida game and that run of that team, and the Cotton Bowl that we all had fun at, guns down. It was a blast. Yeah. But then Saban comes along, and this dynasty that he's created, we are so lucky as a fan base and as alumni to be able to call ourselves Bama and to experience all of this, I take a step back and I soak it all in.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point, man. You are 110% right.
All right, brother. Well, hey, roll tide. I'm going to shut up and listen.
All right, man. Roll tide. That's my man. Phil, got some more calls lined up. I'm going to get to them all. Let's go back to the phone lines again. Who is this and where are you calling from?
This is Kelvin, Mick,
What's
one
up,
of your old
dude?
classmates. How you doing?
Oh, man. Classmates, man. We're brothers. What is
Yeah.
up, dude?
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm great. It's great to hear your voice. what
Yeah,
do you
you
think
too.
of this game? What let's just get into this.
Man.
You live in Atlanta. It's going to be easy to go
Yeah.
around. It's going to be easy to go around, isn't
it? Hey, my Georgia friends are so upset, buddy.
I bet. They didn't see it coming.
They're complaining. They're complaining about that pass when it looked like he may not have caught it or whatever. But that's their issue. But my issue is, I think Alabama should have already leapfrogged Texas, and they should be number 3, and Georgia should actually be number 4. I think that's fair right there. Those guys have been number 1 or number 2 throughout the year, lose one game against Alabama by 3 points, and it knocks them out of the playoffs.
It's sad. I mean,
hard pill to swallow.
They've won like 40 games of their last 42, and the 2 losses have been to Alabama.
Exactly.
And honestly, Kelvin, and you can tell them this, it would have been 3 had we got a chance to play them last year, but we got snubbed by the committee.
Exactly.
I said last night, the thing that they should appreciate is that the committee saved them this feeling last year by putting TCU in and keeping Alabama out. They couldn't do it twice, though. They could not get away with it a second year. That's why this is what happened.
No doubt about it. And furthermore, I don't understand the argument over FSU. Those guys are good and everything like that, but without their Heisman candidate quarterback, the top 8 teams can beat them. I mean,
yeah, right.
They did themselves a favor by not getting in the playoffs, really.
I think so, too. And I want to run through the list with you one time because I did this already, but I want your opinion, okay? Just to make sure that I'm doing a poll here, okay? You just tell me who would win the game. I'm going to tell you the name, playing Florida State. You tell me who would win. Florida State, Michigan.
Michigan.
Florida State, Washington.
Washington.
Florida State, Texas.
Texas.
Florida State, Georgia.
Georgia.
Florida State, Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm sorry. You're exactly right. Florida State, Oregon.
I actually think Oregon will beat them.
Yeah, me too.
I do believe that.
How about Florida State, Missouri? Remember Missouri? I mean, think about that one.
That'll be a better game for them, but I believe the SEC, Missouri, would beat them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're on to something here. Florida State, Penn State.
Whew. Now that to me would be a toss-up.
Okay,
right there.
So we'll stop there then. That's number 10. That's the 10th team, and no one looks at this list and feels like Florida State with the 3rd string quarterback is beating any of those teams because they're not.
Exactly.
I mean, we watched the game last night. Did you watch that game last night? My eyes still hurt. They're burning from watching that.
Yep. I tell you what, I think Ole Miss will beat them.
Well, they would. Ole Miss would run, and you know what? Lane Kiffin would rub it in on them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I want them to play Liberty, just so that they could have like the unbeaten bowl. They could play. Both teams are unbeaten, and feel like they should be in this. Let them play each other and see what happens.
Another thing that I'm excited about. We play Michigan. I'm not a Harbaugh fan at all, and I want to crush those guys.
Me too. I think that I just feel like, and did you see the stats, the analytics that our friend Montana put together for us, our buddy from Miami? It was like he compared all the schedules kind of analytically and put them up there and the strength of schedules. And basically he said Alabama and Texas of these teams have played very tough schedules. Michigan played the weakest schedule, and it actually was weaker than Florida State's schedule this year, which was crazy.
Wow. Yeah. But, Michigan and Ohio State, I mean, they kind of get a buy in the top 5 every year. I mean, and they don't have that SEC type strength. I mean, I'm sorry. Neither one of them.
No. I mean, look, what we saw in Atlanta last night was a title fight, man. That was like Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury. That's what it's supposed to look like when the two best get together and duke it out.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But you know what? A lot of people think Texas is going to beat Washington. I think Washington's going to take that game.
Ooh,
I think
Michael Penix.
Alabama against Washington. Yeah, he's tough. I think he'll with his athleticism, they'll get through Texas. You'll see Alabama and Washington. Although I would love to redeem that loss, but Washington, those guys, it'll take Alabama or Georgia to beat those guys. I don't think no other team could beat them other than Alabama or Georgia.
No. I'm you know what? The other side of the bracket it's so interesting because I feel like Michigan, and somebody's put this comment in the comment section, and I think they're right. Michigan's kind of a weaker version of Georgia, but same preference. We're going to play good defense. We're going to run the ball. We're going to throw. Our quarterback can run a little bit, but not nothing you really worry about. And and obviously that wins football games. For Michigan to win, they're going to have to dominate the line of scrimmage. And for Alabama, they're going to have to play up front like they did against Georgia. You can't have another slip up like they did against Auburn.
With Milro playing like he's playing, I don't think nobody can beat Alabama. I mean, if his game is on, I mean, he's playing like a Heisman Trophy candidate right now. I mean, he's playing just as good as any quarterback out there right now. And, I can't see him beating Alabama at all. What do you think about Georgia not making it?
Well, I said it. I mean, I knew that the math wasn't going to work out for them. But if you were putting in the 4 best teams, Georgia's one of the 4 best teams. The unfortunate thing for them is where they lost. And the other thing that all these teams have in common that Georgia doesn't have in common, that is a big part of the conversation, is that these 4 teams are all conference champions. Alabama's won the SEC, right. Michigan won the Big Ten, Washington's the last ever Pac-12 winner, Texas won the Big 12, right? And what's crazy too, Kelvin, which is kind of crazy, I just thought about this. Really, Texas is in the SEC now. This, what I'm saying? Like they're coming next year, and
That's
Washington's going to the Big Ten.
That's right.
So, like it's either going to be, it could be a SEC versus SEC championship game, even though technically it's not. So just with the conference realignment. Right. But I think Georgia's a great program. I'll tell you, Kirby, he's just great, man. I mean, and if he sticks with it, eventually when Saban's gone, I don't know who his equal's going to be, because really the GOAT's the only guy that can slow him down. And I just thought everything he said after the game showed class. And I just love that about him. He was a great defensive coordinator. He's the best coordinator in the history of Alabama football. I think that's the best. That's the best I can say about anybody.
I agree with you. I mean, a lot of class, and it kind of hurts to see him, lose one game at the end of the season and fall out of the playoffs. Kind of feel like if it was Alabama. I mean, and I can't wait till next year when they have 12 teams, and hey, the best teams will definitely wind up the champion. You got to go through everybody else to get there.
Yeah.
That's going to be the best way to get there.
You didn't.
But look at Buddy.
Well, last thing before you go, and I got some other guys that we're going to jump on here and talk. But last thing I want to ask you: how surprised were you when it came up Bama and not Florida State for that last spot?
Oh man, I tell you what, dude. Me and the old lady screamed. I mean, just listen to the commentators, man. I mean, it's just like after the win, everybody kind of felt like, okay, yeah, Bama's Bama. They deserve to be in there. But listen to the commentators this morning. It's like, hey, hate Alabama or something. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And then Georgia wasn't even in the conversation. Somebody's been number 1 and number 2 the whole season and lose one game to Bama by 3 points. And they ain't even in the conversation. And I just feel like Texas messed that all up by being, the fact that they beat Alabama and they stayed ahead of Alabama in the polls.
Yeah. If
it was the other way around, if Bama was ranked ahead of Texas, then you could have made Alabama number 3 and Georgia number 4 without a lot of conversation.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't the year to sneak in with a loss and not a conference championship. But I know that you living in the Atlanta area, you get barked at a lot by those dogs, and just wink at them. You don't have to say anything. Just wink at them. And and listen, and tell them this from me. When you guys get in that Cheez-It Bowl, we're gonna all be pulling for you. Hey, I love you, bro. Man. Thanks for calling in.
You too, man. Take care. Bye bye.
See you. That's my guy right there. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again. This is fun talking Alabama and now the SEC champs playing in the college football playoff. Who's this and where you calling from?
How you doing? This is Kenneth. I'm from Savannah, Georgia.
What's up, Kenneth? How you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful, Mr. Phil. Good to be on your show.
Hey, thanks for calling in. Well, give me your take.
Man, I just got a lot of things I really want to break down. A lot of people got on Milro the second game of the season, and he didn't do it as well as everybody wanted him to do. So my point I'm making here is sometimes you have to allow people to progress.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, they don't know the backstory of why he probably played the way he played. And that was because they brought in another quarterback from Notre Dame that was supposed to be starting. That's the backstory that they are not telling. So it's kind of hard to play when you got 2 good quarterbacks behind you to take your job.
Yeah, and especially when he put the time in. I heard from a great source, Kenneth. I heard that Milro put the time in. That Milro put the effort in, that Milro was the guy that was dedicated in the locker room, that was studying under Bryce and trying to figure out how to get this done. And he had growing pains, man. I mean, and he still has growing pains, but he might be the Bo Jackson of the Alabama program. He's the most athletic quarterback that we've ever had. He finds ways to get it done. And I mean, he earned it. You know what? The thing about it, and you're right, I have no idea why they brought Booker in. None at all. Never made sense to me. Still doesn't make sense. But with that said, the path that he took to get to where he is right now is part of the story of his success. I don't know that he would be the guy that he is had he not failed and then had to, sit and watch and cheer for his teammates and then watch them struggle and then obviously be the guy. And the whole team and the community know that. And then to go out there and come from behind against Ole Miss and to go to Texas A&M and win the game and to win the team over and to win the community over and to get better and better each week, like, to progress in the RPO game and just it takes this sometimes to be the best, and he's done that.
He does, and he's been good. You know what I'm saying? Game after game, he get better, and he's starting to use his leg a little bit more, and all that great stuff. Then we asked for a quarterback, and that quarterback Tyler, the one behind him, he's not as tall as our quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be able to see things that our quarterback sees. So at the same time, Milro, he's the perfect man for that job. And if he stays with us this year, we're gonna be a bigger threat this year.
Yeah, but you know what?
He's ready now.
I want to win it this year. I want this one.
Oh, of course, this one is really in the bag. We got to. I mean, even both our backup quarterback can control the game with the team who they got in top 4 right now.
Yeah.
Michigan, they're the only team I really did as I see them beat Ohio State. They're the only team I do really feel like might be a little threat to Alabama more than Georgia. And that's funny. I say that. And the reason I say that because the way Georgia play is the style of the SEC.
Right.
But you got Michigan, they're going to have to do a little bit more things that we ain't used to seeing to beat us. Like a whole lot of trick plays and, a lot of, they ain't going to beat us on foot. They ain't going to have them. And they are definitely not going to, like I said, they might get us in the air. A couple trick plays, we'll fall asleep. But at the end of the day, I know they really not going to beat us. You know what I'm saying? They might score 2 or 3 touchdowns, but they're going to be it.
Yeah. So
we're on the.
Yeah, so you're down in Savannah, Georgia. How are the Bulldog fans down there in South Georgia to an Alabama guy like you?
Oh man, everybody, you know what I'm saying? They take it like a man. A lot of them take it like a man. They still crying. They gonna cry. They gonna ache a little bit. But hey, look on the bright side. You get a bowl game. Florida gonna get a bowl game. You know what I mean? So look on the bright side. And I don't know what Florida State got a reason to be mad that they're not in. It's the 4th best team. Florida State would have got in there. Even those teams would have dogged them out.
Oh yeah, look, they had no chance.
State. Right, Mississippi State can beat them.
Yeah.
I mean?
Without a quarterback, they just weren't up to the standard of the rest of the teams. So, well, great.
They're a good team. I get it. They're a good team. I get it. Nobody likes it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they got it right. They got the 4th best team in there. Actually, now, Georgia could actually be in there. Texas could actually be in there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that to me, Georgia's the team that probably belonged the most out of the teams that didn't get in. I'm with you.
I mean, I see Texas beating Washington. I see Texas beating Michigan. I can see Georgia beating Washington and Michigan. I'm glad they did it the way that they did it. Because I believe we're gonna see a rematch.
Yep. I think that's what all of us want to see. Well, hey, yeah. Well, Roll Tide, man. Final thoughts. I'm going to get to some more calls, but great to hear from you today down in Savannah. Any final thought? Maybe a Roll Tide for us?
Man, I just hope that everybody just glad that Alabama's in there and we come home with that daddy.
Let's bring it. Let's get it.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Let's go get that natty. Let's get back to the phone lines again. Our buddy Kenneth down in Savannah, Georgia. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Mick, this is Travis Hastings from San Francisco, California. How are you, buddy?
Oh, what's up, Trav? Roll Tide, brother.
Well, I know I Roll Tide, my friend, and I know my older, he would argue better looking brother called in earlier. But I needed to call in because him and I celebrated last night so hard. You can't even imagine. And I got to tell you, Mick, that was one of my favorite wins ever. And these last two wins have been two of my favorite wins of all time. And I still can't believe it.
Dude, the last week, starting with 4th and 31, and then yesterday's game and today have been nothing short of magical. And if you guys you guys are watching, how about a thumbs up to say Roll Tide as you hang out with us right now? If you think it was a magical run, I can't. What was your reaction to the touchdown on the Plains, the disaster in the pasture, as a lot of people have deemed that?
Well, a lot of those fan videos that came out were pretty similar to my situation at home. I was on the floor after telling my wife and older son that the game's over. I mean, it's 4th and 31. The bad snap, we were done. And it was so frustrating because those were the mistakes we were making earlier in the season. And I felt like we've just gotten so past that, but it's Jordan Hare. And these things happen to Jordan Hare, as we know. So I kind of was sitting pouting on the couch and saying it doesn't matter, it's over. And then Jalen, drops back and he bounces around and they have a 2-man rush and he looks right, he looks in the middle, and then he looks left and he fires it to Isaiah Bond and we win the Iron Bowl. And it's like, holy cow, like it's a moment. And I told Phil last night and I said, that was a moment. And I said, I got to be honest with you, whatever happens with the committee and all that stuff, it doesn't matter. Yesterday was our national championship. Now I said that because I didn't think we were going to get in with a win, but yesterday felt like a national championship. And when CBS opened the show, I looked at Phil and I said, this is a national championship. So like, it doesn't matter is beating Washington bigger than this?
Yeah,
is
right.
Beating Michigan bigger than this? So it's just the last 2 weeks, we are so lucky as fans, Mick. We really are.
Yeah. I honestly like this whole run, like Phil said, and what Nick Saban has done and what he has brought to the university, and then watching him as a person change, from getting to Alabama and everybody getting a memo. Hey, if you see him, don't bother him, to being a guy that has worked tirelessly to build houses for people that are less fortunate in the community. 2011, having the entire football team out in the community after the tornado hit. It's more than just winning football. It's when you have Jake Coker on, I'm on the show with him twice a week, or Baron Huber or Mike Johnson. And, the guys that played, Ryan Anderson comes in and does shows. And, Ryan's a contractor and Jake works at a bank, and Baron owns a company, doing stuff with, with bait for crab traps and other companies, and what Mike's doing in Atlanta. And they're just 4 guys that played for him, but it's the impact that he had on their lives as people, as successes. And you just look down the line and all of these people, and the impact that he's had on the careers and the lives of the players. We love the football success, and that's not going to change. I mean, we want to win football games, but he's taught these guys how to be winners in life, and I think that's the biggest compliment that you can give him.
I agree, Mick, and not to plug your own stuff, but I'm a huge fan. I basically listen and watch everything, but I think the elephant in the room this year has been my favorite thing that you've ever done.
Thanks, Paul.
And one of the reasons is Jake Coker's 2015 team mirrors this team so much. It is unbelievable. And I know you guys always talk about it.
I try to tell him it doesn't.
Scary how much
I'm wrong.
It's scary.
It's scary. Like,
and
gonna have to
and
tell
that's
him
why I
that.
love the show so much. And Jake Coker, like, he sees it and he talks about it and he reacts to it.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, when you guys are on that show, and I put it on my big TV, and I have a beer with you guys, it is the best thing I think, in my opinion, you've ever done, Mick. It is awesome.
Thanks, brother. Like, it's really Jake. You know, he came in. You know, the guys at the next round started to disrupt the media, and it was such an honor for them to ask me to be a part of it. And then they matched us together. And when he first came over, when we first talked, he had really never done anything. And then, you know, media wise, and he thought it was something that he needed to do. We're talking about Jake Coker from 2015 and the Elephant in the Room podcast. And then I said, look, man, this is going to be the most fun you're going to have. I said, I don't know how the show's going to turn out, but we're going to have a great time doing it. It's going to be the best hour that you have all week. And then, you know, it's turned into the best hour I've had all week. I mean, I look forward to it. Like, there's just hanging out.
Well, what I love about it, Nick,
fun.
is what I love about it, it doesn't have to just be an hour. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. And like, I would go 2 hours with you guys. I'd go 3 hours with you guys. It's awesome. And you guys do the best breakdown. I know a lot of guys have podcasts now and shows, and they're all very good, but there's nothing better than you and Jake sitting down, having a beer and just breaking it down. And I love how it's a reaction show one night and it's a preview show the next. And it's just perfect. You guys do a great job, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, brother. And it means a lot to me. And for you guys, again, check it out on Roll Tide Pods. Are you going to the Rose Bowl? Any chance?
I don't know. It's tough for me with the wife on New Year's Eve. So we'll see. I know Phil's going to twist my arm, as you know. So
yeah.
It remains to be seen. But I just want to say Roll Tide, brother. And if I do, I hope to see you out there. And thanks so much for having me on, man. I've been meaning to call in like every show, but
dude.
I got 2 kids and they're crazy.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, love you, brother. Thank you, man. And you and Phil.
You too, my friend. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide. I'm the third Hastings brother. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again and keep this going. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing there? I'm just Demetrius from North Carolina.
Demetrius, man, you found me.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. I found
dude?
you. You know, you was on the other YouTube channel here several years ago, and so things switched up.
They got rid of me, but I'm back.
Well, hey, I ain't got rid of you.
Yeah,
I ain't got rid of you. And I tracked you down, but yeah, that's my name for I love. I mean, a lot of the podcast. I mean, the YouTube channels and blogs on Alabama, and you matched up with. I call him Jake the Snake Coker, like Jake the Snake or Nebraska.
Oh yeah.
Cause when he took over the team, he ran over that boy in that game. Hey, I call him Jake the Snake. It was about like when they used to fake their popcorn.
Yeah, Jake Roberts.
Like
well,
talking about. Yeah.
Have you watched that? We were just talking about the that podcast. What Jake says all the time is he's a pretty big guy, right? He said he would just look for the low numbers and run those guys over. He said the big guys, the big numbers, he'd slide. So funny to me.
Yeah, but to piggyback on that last caller, man, and what you were saying, this is, even Bear Brown was before my time. I've been a fan since '92. The Strip, Lamar Jackson, Lamar Thomas from Miami when George Teague done it, and all.
George Teague did him like that.
This is a thing of beauty. This is a thing of beauty to see. What other teams in college football can say this? What other fan base can say that we done had this much of a run? Will it come to an end? Yeah, maybe, but who's to say the next coach, hey, won't keep it rolling? No, we get a coach that dedicated like Coach Brian and Coach Saban that's going to stick with the program, teach the young men other things other than football, try to teach them other things about life outside of football to make them better men in society and stuff. And I'm excited that we got picked in. I'm excited to go up against Khaki Pants because the first thing he done when he came into back to college football was shoot shots all the way downhill to Alabama.
That's right.
He done all that little stupid little recruiting. He come down all the way down south to look, man, handle your conference first.
Yeah.
I mean, you got enough problems, the cheating scandals, and like the previous another caller said, I do remember that Ryan Day called out Brent Venables about what was another listen to somebody called out Brent Venables about cheating with Clemson. I mean, worry about your own conference,
Yeah.
And I don't feel sorry for Florida State because you sit over there in that cupcake conference in the ACC that Clemson feasted off of for years. They didn't have to worry about playing no hard schedule. They primarily their athletes was always in. They never did get hurt because they didn't have to show nothing on film that they was doing.
Right.
So I mean, but this been a wild season. I like it because we got the man heading the reins and Coach Nick Saban that can steer the ship on the proper course. Getting these young men prepared to play, getting them in the right position, getting them in the right mindset. The same thing we've been reverberating. I mean, week after week after week, and I don't know what's wrong with college football. It's a travesty that Georgia is not playing. I mean,
they're good.
Let's cut. Yeah, they top 4 teams, and I mean, I wish that Georgia was in there because I always want that run back with with at least somebody that's formidable. Because let's call a spade a spade. Kirby Smart to dial up in the defense to shut Texas, Washington, and Michigan down like it ain't nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have walked through the college playoff football championship again. So I ain't gonna hold you up. Roll Tide.
Let me ask you this, Demetrius. One more thing, because I hadn't talked to you in like a year. I feel like it's been a long time. We used to talk after every game.
Yeah, it's been a while.
By the way, swing over here, man. We're on after every game.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, great to hear your voice. What was your reaction? Where were you, and what was your reaction to 4th and goal from the 31 last week?
Oh man, I mean, I was sitting there with my girlfriend. She any team I pick, she gonna go against. I don't care if it's Mick Gillispie University. Me, my son and her son was sitting there. They end up playing, of course. So they playing that Fortnite or whatever that game.
Right.
And they gonna lose. Ha 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 ha. I was getting ready to go to the store, and I had my keys and wallet, and I was like, man, how do you miss opportunities like this? And lo and behold, it erased all. I ain't never want to hear about no kick sis again. When you say kick sis, you better say the nightmare on the plains. I mean, that's what you need to say.
Disaster in the pasture.
It was like the disaster in the pasture. It was. You could have bought everybody. You could have bought everybody and sold them for a penny and sold them for a loss. There was Auburn fan in that stadium that night.
Yep.
I mean, it's. I mean, I love that. That type of victory. It ranks up there. Amongst the many good plays that in Alabama history and college football history. I mean, you down to the last and you find a way to pull it out like that with a quarterback who everybody been trashing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, can he throw a receiver open all the time? No. Can he, make the right read all the time? No. But what he can do, like many other players in this program, he can exemplify the process. He can exemplify the process by getting better and better each and every time and learning from your mistake and getting better, becoming a better player.
Yeah, that's it. Look, his athleticism makes him dangerous. And he's also
makes him
tough.
very, tough. Tough as nails. A couple games I can tell, I could tell he was playing a little banged up, you know. I mean, and that's what I meant to tell you before I go. Shout out to the. I mean, I played tight end in high school. I was all conference, and shout out to the tight end group. I mean, now Black, you know, he's a good receiver, and he might not be the best blocker. I mean, that's something I had to. By me being undersized, you know, I was only about 6'1", 200 pounds. I was undersized on the, you know, the offensive line. They averaging about 240, between 240 and 250. And we on a little small 2A school, but I worked hard at it. But oops, I mean, I love him. He loved getting his nose dirty,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll stick his nose in there against the hardest defensive lineman or linebacker, anybody. And you know, shout out to that group right there. They don't get every pass thrown to them because, you know, Jalen might overlook him or might not be. He ain't getting that read, but shout out to that group, man. And you know, this is a thing of beauty. I'm waiting to get that rerun with Texas.
Oh yeah.
You know, and hey, ain't gonna be no excuses this time. Ain't gonna be no Steve Sarkisian. I know you good, but you're not gonna get over on Caleb Downs like you did this last game.
We're going to have our defense call. The
Oh,
defense isn't going to be standing there looking to the sideline for the play. If you play fast, we'll be able to play fast with you. You're not taking on two coordinators that have had the job for one game. I mean, you know, look, Texas is. I watched them. They're a good team. You know, they're going to do some things, but I think we're ready. We got to get by Michigan first, though. Then we get the look at Texas, maybe.
Get back. I mean, and call it, and I got to call it like it is too, man. These cupcake conferences that's been. I mean, you cupcake around all week, every weekend and week out. You don't really, you know you can put the foot on the gas when you want to, and you trying to play this chess match. Like I said, you don't want stuff on film that the other teams can see.
Right.
And that's why I believe. I'll be honest with you. I believe that's what kind of beat Georgia. Because a good coach, you know, the year that Tua got his hip messed up. That's what I remember the press conference. Coach Saban was like, "Well, we was working on this when he got hurt."
Right.
He was preparing for another game, and you know, all the coaches do it, but these, we got the bullseye on our back. Georgia don't have it.
Right.
Michigan don't have it. Ohio State don't have it. Texas don't have it. Texas A&M don't have it. Florida State ain't nobody gunning for them.
Mm-hmm.
They can get beat by Demetrius University. But then they'll come out here the next week and put up 30 points on Alabama like, oh, we done arrived. We done arrived. I mean, you done pulled every trick play it is in the book, you know. But I'm glad to see the young men persevered through all the criticism. And shout out, while I'm on the road, shout out to number 74, James Proctor. He caught per ATL from everybody this year. But now look at him. That young man was pimp slapping them Georgia defensive ends yesterday. He played big boy ball. Coach Saban put him out there. He sent the boy out there to do a man's job, but now look what that boy doing.
Yep.
That's a thing of beauty. So hope we continue to keep this energy rolling with the team. And Roll Tide, I gotta go, get ready to go to work, hit the road.
Well, hit the road, man.
So,
you still driving those trucks? Yeah, you still driving those trucks?
Of course.
Roll Tide, man. Stay safe on the streets, and we'll call back in, man. Hang out with us. It's great to have you here at the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel.
All right. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right, Demetrius. Good to hear from him from North Carolina. Well, guys, man, final thoughts. 2 hours and 23 minutes ago we got on, and gotta be honest with you, I just was expecting the worst. When I saw the AP poll come out, I was like, you know, they're not going to let Alabama in. And I'm going to put it up one more time because I want you guys to see the final AP and the final coaches poll after the championship games, right? And the writers have had it in for Alabama. I mean, there's a bias there. I felt like the coaches poll all year was, of the two polls, the one that was the fairest to the Crimson Tide. But top 25 AP had Michigan, Washington, Texas, Florida State over Alabama. And, look, the votes were pretty close, 1358 to 1329. I just thought it was odd. How could Texas go up 4 spots and Alabama only go up 3 spots when Texas beat Oklahoma State, who isn't in my top 25? They're not in my top 25. They're not. Oh, there they are, number 22. Okay, so they're number 22. All right, 9-4, number 22. And then, and then you look on the other side, and they're 21. Okay. But Bama beat Georgia, who was by far the unanimous number 1 team in the country. And in the AP, Bama only goes up 3 after week after week after week of winning and staying at number 8. Oregon should have never been ranked ahead of Alabama. Ohio State, after they lost, shouldn't have been ranked ahead of Alabama. And it felt like this AP top 25 was a setup to keep Bama out. Then the coaches poll looks a lot more like what I think the poll should have been. Michigan, Washington, Florida State, 1, 2, 3, and then Bama is the best one-loss team in the country. And even 3 of the coaches even put Alabama as their number 1 team. And I knew, watching that football game last night, and this team and the body of work that this team has had, that they're the best team in the country. Yeah, they have a loss, but they're still the best team in the country. And so they actually ended up tied with Texas, but they have 3 first-place votes, which puts them at 4. And oddly enough, what's crazy is I guess that them and Texas are actually tied for the 4th spot, but Bama has the 3 first-place votes. So, I guess that moves them ahead. But Bama goes up 4, Texas 3. They just didn't want to put Bama ahead of Texas because they lost that game week 2. And then, of course, when the college football playoff rankings came out, it was, it was Florida State as the first team out and Bama in. And I was shocked by that. But I'm glad, because I think it gives us, obviously, I want to see Alabama play. And I think it gives football fans something really cool to watch. And thank you for the super chat. Florida State is TCU 2.0. And I think that's what we all kind of saw coming. Without Jordan Travis, Florida State didn't have a quarterback, and they weren't going to be able to match up with the teams, and Alabama was clearly better. So I know there's going to be some hurt feelings. If I was Florida State, maybe I'd boycott our bowl game. But next year it won't matter, because there'll be 12 teams and no one's going to get left out. But we've never seen a season like this before with this many teams that are this good. I mean, going back to the records of these teams, I mean, you got 1 or no losses from number 7 all the way up to number 1. And think about the teams with 1 loss. Georgia 12-1, Ohio State at 11-1, Bama 12-1. Those are 3 teams with 1 loss. Texas at 12-1. So pretty impressive right there when you look at these wins and and how many of these teams only lost 1 time. And then the group of 2-loss teams, Oregon, Missouri, Penn State, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, pretty good group. So, you're going all the way down from 1 to 12 of teams with 2 losses. But to have 7 teams with 1 loss or less is really something. And to have 3 teams that are undefeated, and don't forget Liberty, number 20, is 13-0. So another unbeaten team, and I think they would actually make the playoff next season. So, anyway, look, guys, thank you for hanging out on the channel. Thank you for being here today. We're gonna do we'll do our Sunday rollback. We'll talk about the Georgia game. That'll come out later on today, and I just can't tell you how excited I am to see this team compete for a national championship. So make sure that you like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Whether you're an Alabama fan or you're one of the fans from another team that hung out with us today, I appreciate it. Roll Tide, and we'll talk to you again later today.